Hi everyone, my name is Mackenzie Thurmond. Today I would like to share my testimony through this video, so I hope that you guys will listen carefully to the words that I have to say and the story that God has written for me, and I hope that you guys will take something away from my life. So to begin, I was born on February 27th, 1995. When I was born with something called septo-optic dysplasia. And basically I was born completely blind. Just the optic nerves weren't there and the brain was premature and everything. So, the doctors were telling my mom, and, my mom was only 16 years old when she had me, and they were telling her, she's never going to see, she's never going to develop mentally or physically. And so with this knowledge, my mom traded all of my regular toys for musical toys, and she let me sit on the dryer and climb around in the cabinets and bang the pots and pans so that I could hear and feel the things that I couldn't see. And so the whole time, while I was getting a little older, months were going by, she was taking me to her home church, and the elders were praying for me, laying hands on me and praying over me and that kind of thing, that God's will would be done as far as, my sight goes and things like that. And so, the months kind of just went by, and I eventually started to gain my sight. Doctor said this would never happen, but it did. And it was a process. There's no surgery that could have been done, nothing to repair the optic nerves that aren't there. It was just totally a God thing. And so, I just started gaining my sight, while this was happening. Of course, my mom was still with the same guy, and she had 3 more children after me. So there's 4 of us by the time that she was 21 years old. And eventually, her and Robbie, well, not eventually, I mean, it was happening. He was drinking, and, they were fighting and just all this kind of stuff. And I just remember one night, him hitting her so hard that it broke her nose, and she had to wake us up and take us to the hospital in our Sesame Street pajamas. We all matched. And so, I remember that. And that day was the day that, my mom kind of drew the line, and she said, this is not going to happen anymore. So they got a divorce, and Robbie just kind of disappeared from the picture. He doesn't pay child support. He hasn't in a while. He was never a father, really. So my mom decided that, due to my vision and everything, I would have a greater chance at success living with her parents, which are my grandparents, instead of living with her. So I started to live with my grandparents, and the years went by. I was still going to that same church that had the elders there that had prayed over me. And so, ages 5, 6, going into school, I started getting bullied a lot for my eyes, and I was kind of fat, and just all this stuff that kids are just mean about. So I had to deal with that, and it was difficult. But at about, I guess, age 7 or 8, I met a man in our church named John, and John took a special interest in me when he didn't have to. And he was a guitar player, and I loved to sing in the church. I ended up very musically inclined, I guess thanks to the musical toys, when I couldn't see. So, but John took an interest in me, and it wasn't long before, we started hanging out and working on music together and just spending time together. He took me under his wing, and, he showed me the way that a father should love a daughter, and just the way that, love is. He didn't have to love me, he didn't have to care for me, but he did, and he spent all of his time investing in me, and music wise, that was our biggest thing that we ever did together. And that was the most important part of us as father and daughter, was the amazingness, to worship together and to you know sing praises to God and to do it together. It was just great. I do remember the first time I called him dad, and I do remember the first time I told him I loved him. I remember the first gift he ever gave me. I remember just all this different stuff that he didn't have to do, and the relationship that he didn't have to give, but he did. And so that really had an impact on my life. But anyway, so throughout the years, going through elementary school, and I'm still living with my grandparents, and my Uncle Rick moves back in with us, and he was very special to me. He was kind of like an older brother, kind of like the best friend that, you just love to hang out with. I mean, he was always shooting me and my brothers and sisters with the airsoft gun, and, jumping on the trampoline with us, and just all of this fun stuff. It was just a great relationship between us and him. And, living with him, too, he and I were pretty close. And, so, the years came and went. I graduated from elementary school. I went to middle school. And, the kids just kept getting meaner. The comments kept getting more hurtful, that kind of thing. So I was already, kind of just a quiet child, a very intelligent, but just very reserved and very shy, because I didn't want to be made fun of or anything like that. So that really played a part in my middle school years. But on July 7th, 2007, I'm not going to go into grueling detail, but my Uncle Rick passed away, and it was really sudden, and it wasn't expected at all. And I remember the time that I woke up, and the things that were said. I remember my grandma coming down and saying, he's not with us anymore. I remember all of that, and that was a really hard time for me. I didn't understand why, this God that I had been raised to believe in since, day one, could do something like this to a girl like me who hadn't done anything wrong. And so, after that, it was going into my, I guess this was going into my 7th grade year. 7th grade kind of went by, and I started to get really depressed. And it was this year also that I found out that John, my adoptive dad, got diagnosed with lung cancer, and that was just really difficult for me. I remember where we were. I remember the way that he told me. We kind of knew that something was wrong, but we didn't want to believe it was cancer until we had no choice. And so so that was 2007, and I started getting really depressed, and I started cutting, and thinking that I really didn't care if my life was gonna end, or what would happen to me. I mean, obviously God didn't have a plan for me if he was gonna let these things happen, and that's what I thought. And so I started cutting really badly, and eventually it got out of hand, and it was just, a lot of people don't understand that when you start cutting, it's just like alcohol or drugs or any other addiction, like you can't stop. And so 2008 came, and I found out that my grandpa, who I was still living with my grandparents, so the grandpa that I lived with, I found out was diagnosed with throat cancer. And I remember my grandma telling me, "Oh, it's gonna be okay. He's gonna be fine. It's not a big deal. And, I believed her, obviously, why wouldn't I? And so, um, I still, kind of kept cutting. It was a hard year for me. It was 8th grade. People were still so mean. I didn't understand why the boys didn't like me, and I didn't understand why people thought I was ugly, and that kind of thing. So I just wasn't very self-confident on top of all of this. So the summer of my 8th grade year, going into my 9th grade year. Wait, I skipped a little bit. Okay, so sorry. 8th grade year, it was kind of difficult for me. I remember a lot of false hope with my dad and his lung cancer. Doctors would say, oh yeah, we can take it out. And then they would schedule the surgery, and, we would wait for hours only to find out that in fact they couldn't take it out. It was too serious, that kind of thing. And so, my, spring break of my 8th grade year, I remember them putting my dad into hospice, and I didn't know what hospice meant. I didn't know what any of that was. I just remember, them telling me he's going to a place where they can take care of him, and, he'll be more comfortable. And so, I was like, okay, that's cool. He's gonna be taken care of. But, he went in on a Sunday, and, the days, kind of went by, and come Wednesday, my grandma and my mom decided that it wasn't a good idea for me to see John anymore, because, the way that he was getting and the pain that he was in was just really excruciating. And they didn't want me to remember him like that. And so, I saw him last on, April 1st, 2009. And, I remember, him, oh, there's fire in my bed. He didn't realize, he didn't know what was going on. He didn't know who I was, that kind of thing. And so, then Friday, April 3rd, 2009, my dad passed away that morning. And, that was really difficult for me. Extremely difficult. And so, a week later, I actually ended up having to be admitted into a mental hospital, because, I remember looking at my mom and telling her, if this is how life is going to be, I don't want to be a part of it. And, so, they sent me to the hospital, and, I kind of learned the things that they wanted to hear so that I could go home. So, like a week later or so, I went home and finished 8th grade year. The summer of my 8th grade year, I went to Haiti, and, I was still kind of up in the air about this whole thing. Why would God hurt me this way? It doesn't make sense. And, so my freshman year of high school came, and I was still very, very depressed and just unhappy with myself and, my circumstances and everything like that. And, fall break of my freshman year, my grandpa passed away. And, that night, I was one of the last people that he looked at. And I was, sitting right there when he breathed his last. And it was extremely difficult for me to just, watch every man that I knew, walk out of my life without me saying it's okay for you to go. Or, I just got so attached, to these men. I guess because Robbie abandoned me, I was so thankful for these guys, for these Christ followers, and, they all left a mark on my life. But, at the time, I didn't see God working in any of it. I didn't understand what was going on. And so, after that, I had to be admitted into the hospital 2 more times, for cutting, and, I tried to overdose one time. But, for some reason it didn't work. And I guess I realized at the end of my freshman year that, there's a reason this didn't work. There's a reason that I'm still here. And, if my dad and my grandpa and Rick, if they were all still here, they wouldn't want me to be doing this. And so I decided to stop and, to try to do better. And so I turned to God for comfort and for support. And, freshman year came and went, and I transferred schools. The next year, my sophomore year, I went to Archer High School. And I spent 3 years there, my sophomore, junior, and senior year. I just graduated, and I'm proud to say that I haven't cut since my freshman year of high school. I haven't had any, thoughts like that. I've really leaned on God throughout this whole healing process, and He has really changed my life. Now I have vision in my right eye. I can see 20/70. I still don't have any in my left, but I don't let my vision hold me back or anything. I'm getting ready to go to the College of Coastal Georgia. I'll major in sociology with a concentration in human services. Because throughout all of this, I really felt God calling me to use my story to help other teenagers so that, they wouldn't have to experience possibly or go through the same things that I had to go through alone. So, if there's one thing that I want, people to take from my story, it's that God has a plan and He is wonderful. And, a lot of the times we don't understand, why He lets things happen or, why things go the way they do. But, in time, everything will be explained and everything will be told to us. And so, I'm a I'm a happy girl. I'm going to college. God is my number one priority. He has really changed my life, and He's really shown me that, I'm not alone in this, and that He's fighting for me every step of the way. And so I hope that you guys heard something through my story that really spoke to you, and I hope that you guys just turn to God when you feel like nothing possibly good could be going on through what you're going through. God always has a plan, and He does have your best interests in mind, whether it seems like it or not. So you guys feel free to message me, email me, whatever, if you guys have any questions or comments or whatever. I'd love to hear your story too. God is good. Thanks for listening, guys.